Welcome to this week's interview with Shawnie Peck. I met Shawnie as a client at my trail riding facility called Holten Ranch around 2015. It didn't take long for Shawnie and her family and friends to become more than friends. They became an extended family to my husband and I. Shawnie has worked as a Wrangler at a dude ranch, trained with Chris Cox and his wife Barbara Cox, won 2 buckles at our ranch, with one of those buckles being at the first national championship hosted by Country Tough Trail Versatility, and she is a keynote speaker. Shawnie is not only a high-functioning woman, but she is also autistic. Her mother was told by doctors that Shawnie would have limited communication and social skills. Guess Shawnie and had other plans, because not only is she functioning, but she is excelling. Shawnie is now in the process of obtaining her bachelors in elementary education and has already completed an associate's degree in graphic design. The world is a better place with Shawnie, and it is my pleasure to introduce a cowgirl that can ride better than most, Shawnie Peck. Welcome back to Big Boss Mare with Brandy Von Holten. Today, I have a guest named Shawnie Peck. So Shawnie is actually the daughter to Karen Peck, and Karen I interviewed on Big Boss Mare already here. So if you like this interview, you can go back and listen to her mother. Okay, so Shawnie, where do you live at right now?
Well, right now I actually live in Cave Creek, Arizona, about north of Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm loving the weather here, and I feel empathy for all you guys in the winter right now.
Okay, so if you're listening to this podcast in the middle of summer or whatever, right now when we're recording this, it is this horrible cold winter that we're having for 2021. It's February of 2021 while I'm recording this. But it is, I mean, we were at negative 16 last night. So, Shawnie.
It's just like old times.
Oh, it is literally miserable right now. Like right now, it snowed all night. And I woke David up, my husband, to tell him to go make sure and go check on the calves, because I knew that we had gotten a lot of snow overnight, because you can't even see where we drove the vehicles yesterday. So not fun times right now outside, but I'm inside and getting to do this podcast interview with Shawnie. Now, Shawnie, you're 30 years old. You'll turn 31 this year. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Okay, I didn't know. I thought you were 30. I didn't know if you were still 29 or 28 or 31.
No, I'm 30, going to turn 31.
Okay. Now, Shawnie is actually, there's 8 people on the Country Tough Trail Versatility National Advisory Board. My husband and I are 2 of those 8 people, but we don't each get a vote. We have to have 1 vote, so then there ends up being 7 votes. So there's an odd number. Country Tough Trail Versatility is it's a horse competition where you combine ranch horsemanship, trail, and obstacles, and that is something that we founded in 2018. Well, Shawnie is actually on that national board with me, and Shawnie has won 2 different buckles and a series before that dealt with spur straps, which is the thing that holds your spur onto your boot. And Shawnie's competed in our all-around Cowgirl challenge, the team version of it and the individual version of it. And something that we haven't mentioned about Shawnie yet is Shawnie also has autism. So, Shawnie, I'm not very educated in, I think there's different levels of autism. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. And to kind of give a brief layman's terms, you know how there are 4 stages to a person's brain development and how they react socially and psychologically.
Yes.
Well, when stage 4 is considered very, very aggressive or nonverbal to an individual. It's kind of reversed. I'm in the stage 4 where I'm actually very highly functional, and a stage 1 is considered very nonverbal.
Okay.
And it's vice versa with other disabilities or any mental disorders.
Okay. So you are the highest functioning version of autism?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And I'm not going to lie. I mean, and you could attest to this too. Whenever I meet new people or go to places, people would be baffled whenever I feel the need to tell them I'm autistic. They're like, but you're so highly functional. So it does surprise a lot of people, especially down at your guys' place when I started going there in 2017.
Yeah, 17, 16.
2017.
Yeah, somewhere right around there. So my experience, the behind the scenes stuff for Shawnie. So I talked to Shawnie before we got started with this, and I'm like, is there anything I need to not talk about? And she was like, nope, I don't have anything to hide. So the only experience I've ever had, sometimes, Shawnie, you come across like a little bit more blunt. And since you do not, your physical features, Shawnie's gorgeous. I mean, like, she doesn't have any flaws. Like, physically, you look like amazing, right? And I've seen pictures of you all dressed up. So people are not going to know by looking at Shawnie that there is any kind of disability at all. And Shawnie is, whenever she thinks something, she says it, and sometimes it comes out a little bit like, like a little brassy. And then, so my only experience is sometimes people get upset because they don't know that you're autistic. They just think that you are kind of brassy. And so my experience is sometimes I just have to tell people like, hey, Shawnie's like high functioning autistic. So sometimes, you got to give her a little bit more, a little wiggle room on that brassiness, but it's never meant to be mean. You're just kind of like, instead of your words coming out in paragraph form, sometimes they come out in bullet point form. They're just a little like, boom, there you go. And it's not mean. So that's my only experience with anything with Shawnie's autism, is that sometimes people get upset, and then as soon as I'm like, oh, she's high functioning autistic, they're like, oh, okay. Now they're just a little bit more forgiving, on something that they thought was you being mean. And I was like, Shawnie ain't got a mean bone in her body. And then after that, they're like, you're right, Shawnie's a freaking sweetheart. I'm like, I know. And she can ride her horse. So, all right. So, Shawnie, you have been guest speakers. You've been a guest speaker before about living with autism. Is that correct?
Yes, I have been invited to various conventions in the past in relation to a YouTube podcast I did with my friends formerly until the pandemic. And I've been invited to Dallas-Fort Worth. I've been invited to Seattle, which is one of my favorite cities to go to. And I am amazed at how people could see that this is someone who's, I think someone even commented like, wow, how is it that you are this functional and that you could travel all the way from either Kansas City or Phoenix by yourself and just come up here and speak? And I was like, I just want to really be that positive representative like Temple Grandin, the real champion of the autistic community.
Right.
But I guess that it's kind of like when going to any competition. I want to prove to others what I am capable of. And it was I give credit to your shows even, which gives me the drive to succeed well and to plan well and really show what I can do in order to encourage others. even though I can be blunt without knowing at times.
I am a bullet point kind of girl too, so I actually appreciate it. Like to the point that I recruited you to be on our national advisory board, and your opinion about things is what helps dictate that entire association's direction, because I value that you look at things, just a little bit more straightforward, and you've come up with some things that the rest of us didn't even think about. And then I'm like, oh, that's wonderful verbiage. So I appreciate the clarity and taking out the fluff, Okay, so I'm going to tell y'all a funny story. Oh. Okay.
Oh, boy.
All right, there we go. Are you still there? Yep. All right, my phone tried to ring in while we're doing this phone interview, and I don't know how that's going to record. But if y'all heard something, I just hung up on somebody else.
Technology.
I know. Yeah, there's a big no in the middle of it with me, but I'm working through it. Okay, so I was at something called Equifest of Kansas, and the headliner, so it's this large horse event, but where a whole bunch of vendors come together and trainers, and there was someone there named Chris Cox. Okay, so Chris Cox is like a big deal. Anyways, I was trying to talk to him, and, there's a million people trying to talk to him. And then I was just like, hey, my friend, Shawnie Peck. Okay. Then all of a sudden, his entire family was like, oh, hey, how do you know Shawnie? So I had to name drop you before with this famous horseman and his family. And then after that, it opened a door for me to be able to talk to them about if they ever wanted to do a clinic at our facility, and it just opened up all sorts of opportunities for my trail facility. So Chris Cox, for a lot of people that are listening in, if you ever get the opportunity to watch him, I most definitely would. He is a true he has a true gift, but so does his wife, right? So Shawnie, tell us your experience with Chris Cox and his wife.
Well, first thing I will say, they are like the real deal. They are wonderful, wonderful family and amazing horse trainers. And actually, it was a funny story where I actually got involved. I had more of a interaction with his wife, Barbara Cox. So since Chris was going around to the shows at the time, when I was living with my brother in Fort Worth, who was in school, and I wanted to rebuild my confidence after some events that unfolded when I was working as a Wrangler in Colorado. And I have learned, I give all of my horsemanship credit to Barbara, and she helped me gain the confidence that I needed. She gave me a better understanding on how to work my horse Double D on the ground, or any other horse I work on. And
okay, so your horse's name is Double D? Double D is your horse's name? Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I neglected to mention that, sorry. But
no, that's okay.
Yeah, basically, but they're definitely a wonderful, God-fearing family, and she gave me the best advice on what to look for a future horse, what to look for in people. And she and their family, they never sugarcoat anything, but they give an excellent balance of assertiveness, knowing when to get the training done, and yet how to approach it in the best manner without whipping your horse's rear end. But other than that, just their characteristics as a couple and as a family really shines as much as Chris. And Chris is also a very, very humble man. Like, even when winning the world's greatest horseman, when he retired after his final one, he was set, and let's let the young ones now take over.
Yeah.
So he displayed a lot of humility, and that was very attractive.
Right.
Like, I want to be that humble. And like, even if I'm the poorest or the most well known, I want to be that humble.
Right. Very respectable family. Okay, so let's talk about Double D. Okay, so explain let's see, explain your horse. You've had him for 12 years, so tell us all about your horse.
Well, I'm going to give it as brief as possible, but my mother and I picked him up through a really good friend of ours who we got our horses through all the time over the years for team roping. And you got to understand, this horse is about 16 hands almost when we first picked him up still. He never changed his size. And when I first saw him, he and I just clicked. But it wasn't until when we got 100 miles away from the barn, I looked at his papers, I realized he was 4, 5 years old. And Mom almost turned around and went back, and I said, no. I believe in this horse. Just give me a chance to learn on him. And it was around the time I was a graduate from high school and college, and I was now getting into riding more often. So long story short, when Double D and I, we learned a lot of roping together and some barrel racing together. And when we came to your ranch, give credit to all of your hosting of ETS and all of the Country Tough and all those. And every show that we would come across, it grew our relationship as horse and rider. And I applaud you for that.
Well, thank you.
And now and right now over in Arizona, he and I were exploring every trail we could find, ETS or not.
Right. Yeah. Double D, if you've ever watched the movie The Transformers, I'm sure that Double D could pull Optimus Prime out of the ditch, because Optimus Prime was the big old semi that was in charge, but Double D has the biggest butt. He is a powerhouse. Like, I got the honor of getting to ride Double D one time because I was judging something on the trail and I didn't want to walk back, so I made you give me your horse. I don't know if you remember that. But
I do remember, because I walked the rest of the way.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, well.
Nah, it's all right.
Okay, so.
Good time.
Oh, yeah, we had great times. Hey, one of the competitions that you had here was the All-Around Cowgirl Challenge, and one of the competitions was cooking. And I remember, I'm pretty sure, didn't you beat your mom at cooking?
I did, actually. I beat my mother twice on cooking.
Oh, what does she think? I do love your hodgepodge that you cook in the pot. That is, that's pretty good throwing down around the campfire for sure. You want to share with us with what's in your hodgepodge?
My hodgepodge is pretty much what we call the best peasant dish, or as we Wranglers back at Colorado called Wrangler pot pie. We took beef, hominy, ranch beans, water, Rosella, green chili, tomatoes, onions, and I have it mixed it up. And when the key is, while at the simmering stage, if you want to reduce the amount of scrubbing you have to do, and this is especially good for campfires that you could tell your guests as a suggestion, whatever you simmer or such and one cornbread, just make the batter, pour it on top, and it'll cook itself faster while simmering than an oven.
Okay. All right. Yep. I know that hodgepodge is pretty nice. And that was one of the things that I always look forward to whenever you were camping. It was that you were cooking. So, yay. Whenever you come back, make sure and bring your Dutch oven, okay?
I will for sure.
Okay,
I'll have it all seasoned for you.
Awesome. Okay, so you have talked about college before. So I know something that your mother has told me is that you weren't verbal until you were 5 years old, and that the doctors they didn't ever think that you would be able to function. Correct? Like, do you know what they had said about you before?
Based upon what I was told in the past, they believed that I would never be functional. I could never do well in, like, I wouldn't go to college or drive or basically do anything. So in psychological terms, I'm currently taking psychology. They would pretty much tell my mother that I would be no more than a vegetable.
Okay. So you were most definitely not a vegetable. Okay. You graduated high school, and you also have an associate's degree. What is that associate's degree in?
It's in graphic design.
Graphic design. Okay. And then right now you are getting your bachelor's. And what is your major there?
My major there will be in education.
Okay. So you're one now. What are you wanting to teach?
Well, I'm in Arizona. I have until all the pandemics increased recently, I've had the opportunity to sub for 4th to 6th graders, and I love that grade level because I believe that I'm currently right now in between the youth at heart and the older generation. And these kids, I just love that group, that they're at that point mentally where they're looking for someone to look up to. Mm-hmm. And I believe as a substitute teacher, since they are, since of course they have their regular teacher 24/7, they get a new and refreshing perspective. And I want to give those kids a new and different viewpoint to get them motivated to learn more.
Okay. So to be a substitute teacher in the state of Arizona, you have to have a bachelor's?
Yes. To be certified, you have to have a bachelor's, and to have the certification right after that. Right now, because there are a few states that actually take on those that do have an associate, I'm considered right now a classified substitute teacher. So we're kind of in the bottom of the totem pole, but hey, I love whatever assignment I got.
Okay. So my thoughts would be that, in addition to being a substitute teacher, because then it could be any grade, any subject, but man, I'm just thinking how wonderful if you ever wanted to be a special ed teacher. Do you know, talk about, you're going to be a good role model in any subject, but then also being an advocate to show other students, I'm autistic, boom, and I'm your teacher. What? I think what a great message to be able to send to anyone, or students that are not autistic, for them to be able to see that they can learn and respect and value the thoughts of someone that, that originally the doctor said that you weren't going to be able to do anything. And then here you are going for your second college degree and, going to be the leader in the classroom. So what do you think about do you think you would ever like to be a special ed teacher?
I did work as a paraprofessional for quite some time, and then, of course, Rona came in and such. But as much as I love working with the kids, I realized that no matter which field I'm in, either in special or in regular, because to not go too deep into the politics of education and to keep confidentiality, most parents would actually, even with kids that do have special needs and require help, most of them still get scared of what happens when sending kids to the special ed room or such.
Correct.
And I feel like when I'm out in the open field, I can't be categorized in just one area. I want to be able to reach those that would seek an influence without having to go over to a certain area, or if they're in that special ed area where I'm subbing at, then they see me there. I just want to be an influence not only to those with disabilities, but those with mental health issues.
Right.
And even the normal and the undecided.
Okay. You know what? Everybody needs to be in the regular ed classroom as much as possible, because after school's over, there's not different groups. You know what I mean? Like, the classrooms are no longer split after there's not a classroom. So the more that people can be exposed to general population, the better it's going to be, because it's real, it's authentic. You know, it's not, oh, let me bring you over here. I mean, like, I could understand for special services, but in general, I feel that every student needs to try to be in that regular classroom as much as they can, just to be able to be socialized correctly. Do you think that?
Yes.
That's what I think you're saying.
Yes. And I also, on an ending brief note, and maybe this is the part of the teacher ed and me campaigning this, but these kids are the future members of our community or someone else's community, and also a good practice for the workforce. So I think that you're right. Social exposure is necessary, and where they need to learn collaboration and to learn how to work together.
Most definitely. Okay, so Shawnie, let's talk about, are you single currently?
I am single currently.
But you do have one guy in your life. Double D.
I do have, yeah. He's been my man for 12 years and still going strong. And kind of a fun fact, I've dated a couple of men in my lifetime, and most of them were pretty intimidated on Double D.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like, they get scared to riding him because he's so huge.
Oh, yeah, he is a big guy. Hey, so dating. So I only know of one boyfriend that you had before, and then whenever y'all broke up, and then he dated another lady. She was actually a friend also, but you actually helped plan their wedding and attended their wedding. So,
yes.
Are y'all still good friends?
Oh, yeah. We are still very close, tight-knit friends. In fact, I just had a conversation with both of them over the phone last week. They're opening up their own business, which I can't really discuss right now since they're in the building process, and to respect on what they're planning. But the funny thing about I may as well call him my friend. I don't like using the term ex or former boyfriend. We are friends.
Right.
But when he was dating his now bride, there were circumstances that she needed a place to stay a bit or such before they could figure things out and do things the right way. So she stayed with me throughout the rest of the summer while my mother was gone in Montana and such. So she helped me out with the ranch in Missouri, and we became very close friends. Well, when they decided they wanted to make things right and decided to get married, I was like, she was panicking and such, and I was like, okay, I'll help you organize if you like. And right away, she knighted me unexpectedly, the maid of honor. So you would not believe all the stares I get. And I still remember your stare when I told you that I'm helping and being the maid of honor in that wedding.
Well, girl, that just don't happen that much. Okay, come on now. That does not happen very often. But it just speaks to your caliber of person that you are like, okay, it didn't work out for us, but then it's working out for them. But yeah, it did take me back just a second to be like, you're going to be the what of the what? But come on now, you have to give me that. Like, It's not. It's not the way that it, a lot of people roll, but different strokes for different folks.
And that wedding helps you get your wedding barn going.
Oh yeah, and you know what? The wedding was beautiful. You did a great job, and everything turned out great. So kudos to y'all. And their wedding, their marriage is still going strong. So, man, stuff worked out the way that it was supposed to. Absolutely it is. Hopefully I didn't like, oh no, they're not doing well.
No. I was saying, yeah, you're right, but they are going really strong, and I believe pretty soon they will celebrate in November. I think it was 2018. They'll celebrate their third wedding anniversary in November.
Yay! Awesome. Okay, so Shawnie, let's talk about. It was in your late 20s, in the last couple of years. Your parents got divorced, and now you. Yeah. I know. Now you live in Arizona, and you're helping your mom. And you are actually, y'all live at the same place right now, correct? But then your mom goes back.
That is correct.
Yeah. She goes back and forth between Arizona with you and her father, but I know he's got his own house because your grandma passed away a couple of years ago. And so.
About over a year ago, in December of 2019.
Yeah. Now then, and your brother is in Maryland with his wife that is going through Hodgkin's lymphoma treatment, but she is on the mend with that and doing well with that. And then they have a daughter that is, how old is Charlie now? 2, 3?
She is 2.5. She's going to be 3 in September.
Okay. So how long do you think it will be, or has it already happened, that Charlie gets to come down and stay with you and get to ride Double D?
Well, I think maybe pretty soon, even like when she's 3 or such. One thing that's so great about Double D is that, and I credit ETS for this as well, but I think it's just from past experience when I was a nanny at one point, and little girl was around Double D at the time, but he is super good with kids. In fact, right at the house where I live, we have a daycare nearby, like close to the lot area, and he would watch over the kids.
Okay.
So he's pretty much, like, he would be super gentle with the kids when they're around, but yet he could be aggressive when competing.
Right. You know,
like that's when he knows.
Oh, it's game time. Like, he's like, it's time to do this. There's this old movie.
He knows when it's time to work.
Oh, yeah, when it's not. You know what I found is with those bigger animals is that the bigger they are, usually the sweeter they are. It's those little ponies that are evil. So we say, closer to the ground, closer to the devil. You know, so the tall ones are sweeter because they're further away. So, all right.
That's why I prefer gentle giants anyways.
Most definitely. So, Shawnie, with all of the transitions that happen with your grandma and your parents and your brother and his wife, how did you manage through that? Like, it's about 1.5 years of awfulness, you know? I mean, like, and then you're also going to college. So tell me some coping skills that you know that were in play.
Well, I moved down to Arizona back in May of 2019. So I had the first 6 months of taking care of my aunt and uncle's place of healing time and just pretty much give a little soul searching because I am a woman of faith. I am a Christian. I had to take time to first heal up myself and really think about, okay, I'm in a new life. This is a new start. And another thing, and which was a really good time since I moved in when the Arizonians called it the worst timing to move in, when everything was crazy, stupid hot. But yeah, just giving time to reflect is a good one. A second one, which mine to kind of steal from my mom's interview, is discovering something new with what you lost, replacing with what you lost. Like what gives you that drive. And quite recently, I've gotten inspired by watching a Netflix show with the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance on Netflix. I've felt inspired by all the psychology behind the fantasy. You got to understand, I am a huge book nerd, which even surprised all of my Wrangler coworkers back then. And I'm still a big bibliophile. And I found that during the hot summertime, I started writing things down for fun. And I'm currently just working on a few books for the side project, including my own story based upon all of my autism talks and panels and such, called Beyond Broken Barriers. I'm probably going to release a chapter once a month or so on Wattpad.
Okay. Release a chapter on what?
On the website, wattpad.com. And I'll send you more details of that later, but I'm still working on the outline and reflecting. It's going to feature the ranch more often at Holten Ranch, because you guys played a huge part in it.
Well,
my story.
I do love that you've won 2 buckles here, and one of them was it was like you were sliding into home. I mean, it was by the smallest margin, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how small the margin was, because, man, doesn't it feel so good to win whenever it's like such a tight race? And then for you to win the national championship, the first national championship that hosted by Country Tough Trail Versatility in the advanced division, like, what? That right there just has like it's got a lot of pride associated with it. That's like a huge deal, especially CT2V, Country Tough Trail Versatility, has now had 100% growth for 2019, and then it had another 100% growth for 2020, even with the pandemic. And now 2021, if I hit our numbers correct, I know that 50%, it's hard to make 100% growth every year, especially the third year. I mean, we would have to have 152 new members to have 100% growth, but I know that we can do 50% growth this third year that's what I'm hopeful for. But, for you to come out and, and be an active member on that, it's just, I know that we're going to be all up in your book, because it was a big deal. It's a huge deal. So want to give you props for that. Okay, so let's talk to...
can I add
please.
But can I add one more thing on what was also coping?
Yeah, sure.
The third greatest cope for me after the whole situation back with all the crumbs I had to eat pretty much was riding. Like riding and discovering Arizona in the desert, because I was itching the trail ride so bad. The minute and when things got cooled down or such, I would just load up my trailer and just go out and explore. Like even during the pandemic, and I feel a little selfish for saying this, but I was blessed beyond all measures that during the pandemic that my mother and I were able to go out and ride, even though a lot of people still struggle and all, to be able to post pictures and just to see that going out and such, it's helped encourage a lot of people.
Well, our business is agriculture based, and with COVID, we were able to be basically like a sanctuary for people, because you're supposed to be 6 foot apart. Well, by God, you got to be 6 foot apart if you're on a horse, so a lot of people turn to their horses for their mental sanity, and so they could actually do something, and our campsites are 25 feet apart, and then we have over 300 acres for them to ride on. Well, it's the same thing. Arizona, you can get on a horse and you're in fresh air. You are not close to people. You're already doing social distancing because you'll get kicked if you don't. So horseback riding and agriculture-based businesses, a lot of them, a lot of people that normally wouldn't be doing those activities did those activities because it was safe and it was something that they could still do instead of being cooped up in their houses. So no, nothing wrong with being able to enjoy your horse. You know what? I bet a lot of people's horses got a lot better during the pandemic because they got rode more. So
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Arizona trail riding. Do you miss the greenery, or do you prefer the up and down, the hills, or what do you have in Arizona? Do you like it better?
I could speak for Double B. He misses the grass to try to munch and chew, especially your guys' ranch grass. But I think as much as I've learned a lot about riding in Missouri on my own place or on Holten Ranch or such, I love the challenges of going up through the mountains on certain trails where some are flat and yet some are pretty sketchy, or some that are just the right amount of climb. Dee and I did have a couple close calls and were pretty scary where we said never again, but it was those experiences that it was one that ETS and CT2V came into play, especially with obstacles, and it just showed that those were in preparation for if you do go out on the trails and see how it all works out.
Hey, so, something that you and your mom did this, I think it was November, December. You know how, whenever bad things happen, a lot of times people set up on that date whenever something bad happened in their life. My brother's daughter, my niece, passed away, and I have, the date that she passed away is burned into my brain, right? So I know that you and your mom this year, whenever it was getting close to the holidays, y'all had so many things that happened with your parents' separation and divorce, and then your grandmother, all at the same time, that this year your mom talked to me about how y'all are wanting to set up and create new memories, positive memories on those dates, so then you can rewrite, no longer have a date that is associated with a negative event that happened in life, but you can associate that date with a positive event. So what do you think about that process?
I think it's a healing process as well. And my mother and I, we took inspiration from that when we watched the 25th anniversary live stream of the Oklahoma City memorials of the bombing that happened 25 years ago, how they take that with their, what they did is they took that date of the bombing and they turned it into something where it was that day they remembered, even though it was the roughest of times, everyone in that city and even all over the world stood up and tried to make it through and tried to make the best of it, and they still continue on in the legacy. So why can't we as individuals do the same, whatever is branded in our mind? From when my mother and I, we just recently, and I know she would probably give me the stare for this, we recently found her a really nice hat at one of the best hat shops in town, and it's going to be completed by the anniversary of when she finally left Missouri and such to come down with me. And we thought of it as a liberation kind of remembrance. It's a start of a new life because she left her old felt hat behind.
Okay.
But And it's the same appliance with my grandmother's death. Recently, since my grandmother died the day after Christmas, we all would grab eggnog, since she was an eggnog connoisseur, and went to her grave, and we would just toast to her and think about her, and then we would go to her favorite Mexican food restaurant and order her favorite dish.
Okay.
And I would even, when I would visit my grandmother, I would just take a book and read for 30 minutes, and she got me into learning. But it's just in the manner of, you only make those days hard if you make them hard. But you could turn if the people of Oklahoma can turn a tragedy into victory with a date in their memorials, that why can't we do the same with whatever circumstances land in our way?
Right. Man, what a positive message right there for sure, girl. That right there, right now, I know that there's listeners that are probably tearing up because it is such a good message there. And you know what? Your mama getting a custom-made hat, girl. I had a custom-made hat, and I put that thing on, and I mean, I can have pajama pants on, boom, put that hat on, I feel sexy. You know what I mean? Like a good made hat makes you feel good. You know what I mean? Like nobody can touch me because I got that hat on, girl. So like, I'm glad that she went and got her a custom made hat. So, okay.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
I said, yeah.
Oh, you just said, yeah. Hey, so Shawnie, to the parents out there that, you know, you said there's 4 different levels. Did you say there's 4 levels of autism and you're the 4th level?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to the parents that are just now finding out that their kids are autistic? What message do you have to them about, you know, about having a child that has autism?
My message to them would be, do not treat them any different than your other child or any other person's child, whether niece or nephew, or if you have another son or daughter. Sure, they have a new set of different thinking skills, and I actually highly recommend go on TED Talk on Dr. Grandin's Thinking in Pictures and Perspective. Autism is just a new brand form of thinking and processing in perspective. I know plenty of people would give the cliche saying that, yeah, that's a superpower. Autistic people have superpowers. Well, you could say that, yeah, and I actually admire you saying that, but we're just as normal as the next person. We just think in a whole different perspective. I mean, it's no different than possibly a mule would think of a different perspective as a horse, but yet they can be rideable. It's not. But if you feel ashamed that your child would have to go to a special needs class in order to help them, I could give you 2 options. One, re-examine yourself and think, are you going to give a better option? Are you going to put the effort in to help the child? Or where's the shame in that? Or if you decide to go ahead and have them in special ed, talk to them. Ask them what they learned about today. Ask what was the best part or the worst part. But don't be afraid that if they may be sensitive or such, let them know that it's okay to be mad as long as it's controlled. It's okay to be excited. Just know that other people would think you're a little wackadoodle and you can have a balance.
Okay.
It's just if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Dealing with a child is no different than dealing with a horse.
Okay. All right. So praise,
just depends
you mean
on
like
how.
With a horse, all I do is praise growth. It doesn't matter how long it takes for them to learn something as long as we're going in the right direction. Whenever you say treat them like a horse,
Exactly.
I'm like, oh, praise the small. Don't expect Rome to be built in a day. So.
No. Any child development takes a lot of time. like anything you do when it comes to raising a living human being or even an animal. Everything takes time. I mean, and it also takes discipline, and it also takes patience. Those are the three great levelers of upbringing a child. And sure, some of the kids would be blunt, like yours truly, even unintentionally, but there will come a time where even when, and no matter what stage that an autistic person would have, we have to live in a world where we have to prove everyone else wrong about what we've been branded. So yeah, there will be times where we would be blunt, but it's just to know that we are thinking and acting, reasoning adults.
Right.
And that's how they want to be treated.
Right. I love bluntness.
Demand them to be challenged.
Yep. Demand them to be challenged.
Demand to be challenged.
Okay. I mean, I love bluntness and to the point, and like, man, the thing that about being blunt, I've had people, like, that's kind of whenever people have complaints about me, is that I'm too blunt sometimes. You know, I've gotten a little bit more wordy and trying to, you know, pretty that up a little bit. But then whenever push comes to shove, I am a bullet point kind of girl. But, okay, so, Shawnie, thank you for coming on to this podcast. Now, is there any way that if you said that you're writing books, but you didn't ever talk about it getting published, you were talking about sharing the chapters, but are you wanting to actually have a book that somebody can put into their hand also?
I'm currently looking up on publications or such, but on the site, Wattpad.com, from what I've researched, if I get a certain amount of views on there or such, they would be able to publish it as a hardcover book. Okay. So really, it's kind of a selling myself first out there if they wanted to get, if it's worth the printing out.
Okay. Well, I can tell you right now, Shawnie, that it's most definitely going to be, people need to hear your story. Parents need to hear your story, and other people need to hear your story. And not just people that are dealing with autism, but just everybody needs to hear your story. It's a story of triumph. You know, it's a story of having your head on right and keeping, you know, your good foundation in Christ has, you know, it's been your backbone, and it's just a good story. I most definitely don't worry about having to sell yourself, because you already sold yourself, girl. People would buy your book. So at least you would sell one copy in Mora, Missouri. But I know that a lot of people would love to read your book. Okay. Well, Shawnie, if they wanted to get in touch with you, how do they find you?
It depends on any other matter, but you can find me on Twitter called Dark Horse KC.
Okay, Dark Horse,
you can find
like
me
Kansas
on there.
City. So Dark Horse KC.
Yes.
All right. Well, and if anybody needs to get in touch with you, you know what? Whenever I asked your mom the same thing, they were like, "Well, they can just get in touch with you, and then they can get in touch with me." So I'll put that offer out there to you also. If somebody wants to get in touch with Shawnie and they're like, "How the heck do I can always get you, and I can always get them in contact with you for sure." So, all right, well, I guess I'm going to go have a good snowy day, and you go have a good Arizona day, and I will talk to you next time or another time again, Shawnie, and thank y'all for tuning in to Big Boss Mare with Brandy Von Holten.